Hey, welcome to this week's You Asked For It. It's a little thing we do where you ask a question and we answer it. Mm-hmm. And so we have been getting questions from you guys. It's been great. We just the one we answered previously was a great question. But I have a question that I am not going to answer. I'm going to ask you guys. And I don't know if this is a question that has actual facts to it. We can only maybe surmise, guess, wonder. But I really do have this question, and that is this. There are several Christian churches in our community. Mm-hmm. How can Christian churches be so extreme that in our community there are churches who are very pro-Constitution, pro-gun rights, pro-God's biblical moral mandates, and there are other churches in our community that ban no guns on this premises, guns are bad, that we support things that I totally believe are anti-biblical. We support abortion, we support gay rights, we support choosing your genders, and like this, there are churches, Christian churches, that believe that the stories in the Bible are historical events that God had used to bring about his plan, and Christian churches in our community that don't believe that the biblical stories are real. They're just made up to make a point. Like how, I'm just confused, and I guess I've had a couple days of being very vexed or sad. This is one of my sadnesses. How can Christianity be so far left and so far right? I'm not using political terms. Mm-hmm. So far apart. What causes that? And how can two people have such extreme differences? And I'm saying even just the gun thing. Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. This church bans gun on the premise, like that steel is evil. And other churches say, hey, we want security guards here that are armed to take out any bad person that might come in, whatever. How do we get to that extreme of thinking? And how can truth or perspective be so far apart, especially under the guidelines of we both call ourselves Christians? That's a confusing question, mm-hmm. and it's a long one. But I am perplexed and just bothered by such a gap.
You're I don't know if you're waiting or if you're just like, I would say one of the main a couple things. One would be a misinterpretation of the Bible. Mm-hmm. We talk about macro, micro, mm-hmm. right? And not understanding mm-hmm. the context of mm-hmm. whatever they're reading and thinking that everything is written to me, mm-hmm. and it's not. And another one is society. I think society has a big part to play in that, where they let their earthly, whatever's going on around them in society, affect their Christianity. And that's, mm-hmm. kind of the series we're in now, where it's you view things through a Christian lens and not the other way around. And I think those two, in my opinion, that would be the gist of it. And there's probably more, but those would be two big ones for me.
Do you want to go?
No, I'm going to wait.
I got a feeling Sheen's going to talk for a while.
I don't think I want to talk for a while, but
no.
I would say when you were asking the question, I heard the term of Christian churches, mm-hmm. and I would be bold enough to say I don't believe every place that has the word church in it is Christian. So yeah. I think when you look at a lot of the issues you brought up, I don't believe a lot of those people have put their trust in Jesus for their salvation, are connected to God, experience his presence, have a correct view of the Bible as the infallible, inerrant word of God for our lives. So I would make a huge distinction right there that I think there's quite a lot of churches that are not Christian at all.
under the label of a Christian church.
I would even think this is not everybody under denominations, but I think there are certainly denominations that the large percentage of them are not Christians at all. Now, can people be saved and discover all that? Absolutely they can. Probably harder, but, and then I would agree with what Dave said. I think a lot of the stuff is just who you hang out with and how influenced you are by society. The pressure, the woke crowd pressure has infiltrated its way into even evangelical churches. I've seen so much stuff that lines up more with progressive woke theology than biblical theology. And pastors are doing messages on it and encouraging their congregations to buy into things like critical race theory that is so against God's view of humanity and what Jesus came to restore. And I'd probably sum it up into those two. There's a lot of stuff I wouldn't even call Christian. So when you talk about all the moral issues, that one for me solves that one. How can you think the Bible's just a collection of good thoughts? I can't perceive somebody being a Christian, a real Christian, trusting in Jesus and thinking like that. Because if you follow that trail down, well, then how do you know that trusting in Jesus isn't just
made up,
good moral made up sort of thing?
Or how about a pastor saying that?
It's crazy. It's crazy. So, yeah.
Any ideas?
To be honest, I was thinking the same thing that Shaheen was. I had a hard time hearing Christian churches and being able to actually agree that they're a Christian church if they're speaking on anything that's not biblically found and sound. And I think the problem is that you have all these different denominations who all these pastors have to answer to their higher ups, and their higher up is not God. Their higher up is their denominational board,
council, or bishop, or whatever.
Yeah. And a lot of those are getting pressure, and sometimes it's financial pressure, and I don't know. It's hard, and people are being influenced, and let's be real. We live in a fallen world, and it's the devil's playground, and he's enjoying throwing all these ideas out there and letting people grab hold of them.
Yeah, and I think also just the term church is, when you hear church, you automatically think Christianity, Christian church. Christians go to church, but not all churches are Christian. And that's where the water gets muddy, especially for people that don't go to church. It's like, oh, what kind of church do you go to? Well, I go to a Catholic church. Okay, well, that's different,
So would you guys think that maybe part of it is we are some Christian churches or churches that are labeled Christian are more interested in two things. Number one, they're more interested in perpetuating a religion that is mostly developed by man.
I think that's what Radine just said.
Yeah, more developed by man's ideas and that. And number two, could it be, and this is where we all have to watch ourselves, could it be, because I think many people in Christianity, even in our church and everywhere, there is this incredible movement to think that compassion or being nice and kind is the same as being right and just. Or compassion and kindness trumps, not in the Donald sense, trumps righteousness, justice, those types of things.
Well, I think it's something that we have talked about previously, that compassion and being nice to people and don't hurt anyone's feelings is loving them.
Exactly. And it's the misconstruing the definition of love. What we, as a culture, we've bought into, loving somebody is giving them something. And I was just talking to a guy the other day, last week, about would it be loving to your children to just give them ice cream all the time because that's what they wanted? That wouldn't be the loving thing to do. Well, if your teenager just wants more cocaine, you know what? Obviously, come on, we got to be more, you know.
Yeah, loving them is making them happy.
Yeah.
Or whatever they feel they need or want at that time.
My poor kids.
How about this idea that many Christian denominations or labeled Christian think that Christianity's main focus is humanitarian issues? Like their main, the purpose for being is humanitarian reasons and purposes. Do you guys think that is the mission of the Christian church?
Absolutely not. Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world.
Yeah.
How could it get any clearer? Now, should that affect the way we live in this world? Absolutely. But that's such a short-sighted purpose. No way. No way.
That's people that are earthly focused and not heavenly focused.
I think I said it. I don't know, maybe it was, who knows, maybe close to a year ago, but one of my favorite pastors who I looked up to, you know, for 10 years, I can't think of the last time he gave a salvation message. You know, I watch him pretty regularly, and it's all humanitarian. How can we make a difference? How can we be nice to one another? He uses the term love, but really it's just a guise of how to be nice to one another. And not once has he, at least in a Sunday message that goes online, told people to put their faith in Jesus as the only way to be connected to God for eternity. So, yeah, absolutely. One of the most influential churches in America, for sure, maybe around the world.
Yeah, in my opinion, this might be fought, but this is my opinion. When churches are teaching like the prosperity gospel or just be nice to each other and do good and go out to the world and do that, they're more concerned, what you were talking about being more concerned with, what they're concerned with. I think they're concerned with butts and seats. I think and I think that stems from greed. That's my opinion. They're money hungry.
Or pride.
Or pride too.
Either one.
Sure. Power would be another one. But when you're focused on that, you just want to get people there and please the people that are there.
Right. And I was going to say that too, because, you know, people are not tied to a specific church. They're not held down. You don't have to come to our church. You don't have to go to any of the churches in town. You get to go wherever you want. So they are trying to make the people that they have there happy and give them what they want to hear, not necessarily telling them what they need to actually hear.
Maybe that's where this cultural influence is having its grip, is because I got to draw people who already are agreeing with culture and not Bible. So
we're even trying to, like, this idea of nice and soft and compassion. A lot of Christians are even trying to do that just to ourselves. That's how you get entire denominations and sects of Christianity that say homosexuality is not a sin anymore. There's no way biblically you can come to that conclusion. Not a chance. Well, except if you either struggle with that yourself and you have to justify it, or you know somebody who's a great person, and how could God possibly think that's wrong because this person is so, and now I have to reinterpret everything. It's crazy. Well,
and because we live in America, and America has decided that you can't defend anybody anymore. Like, you have to all get along and say nice things, or if you hurt my feelings, I'm not going to talk to you anymore and I'm going to leave. And that affects the church. Unless
you are a white, male, Christian, straight business owner, then the country can tear you to shreds.
Yes, but now that
you are Satan.
But then, even within our church, we still have to.
What?
Hello, God? Yes. You don't like this conversation? Okay. Oh my gosh.
But even within our church, we have to be careful because we don't want to make those men, those white business owner,
Christian,
men,
yeah.
Christian,
Yeah.
upset, and have them leave.
Oh boy.
So
Okay, I have another question. I mean, it's all on the same stuff, but and we should probably have one of those people here to ask them. But I really want to know what you guys think. Logically, how does a person get to the point? Because many people are there. How do you get to a point where I don't want guns in here? Don't bring guns here. Guns are evil and bad. How does a church get to that point? I honestly don't know.
Okay, this is I don't know how to say this not offensively.
But just try to. I'm just asking your opinion of why you think those people arrived at that conclusion.
Everything we're saying so far is offensive, so go
My
ahead.
opinion is that way of doing life does not involve much critical thought. Because if you're gonna say that guns are bad, you also have to say spoons are bad. You know? And like that's not critical thinking. That's not thinking from a principle aspect rather than just a situation. That's not stepping back from the I'm emotional right now and looking at the bigger picture. Personal response. I mean, just so much lack of critical thinking.
I would say that I think some of that has gone back to God will protect us. We don't need to have guns to protect us. God will protect us. We're in the house of God, so evil can't come in here, which is a very scary thought, and because evil can definitely walk through those doors. And that's why there have been church shootings and
But again, even if you follow that line of thought, okay, well then don't wear a seatbelt, don't get your oil changed, don't go to the doctor,
Don't have insurance.
don't have all these different things. Like,
Right.
how can you possibly go down that route and not run into 100 million roadblocks to that type of thinking?
Okay, I think from their perspective, one of the arguments is culturally that, well, guns are just have the ability to do so much damage so quickly. If
So do humans.
So do cars.
So do spoons.
So do spoons.
or knives or whatever.
Or knives.
So-
Well, that's why knives are
spoons
outlawed in London.
Or forks. Spoons and forks. Because it's a vehicle to get to your mouth.
It's crazy.
So you think it's a lack of critical thinking?
Absolutely.
It's just wishful thinking. I had a pastor one time tell
I think
me
most of the problems we're facing in society right now boil down to that. A lack of critical thinking.
just put my head in the sand.
That's what they said?
Yeah. I told you about this a couple years ago. We were talking about guns in church and who bans guns. And I said, gosh, I mean, in my opinion, and I think you share the same opinion, and that is until we can take every gun out of America, I want to make sure good people have them because they are an effective way of stopping evil. And so, but I would be for in big cities and all that. You guys are going to shoot me for this, but I would be all for if we could
Shoot me for this. I see what you did there.
absolutely
It's a nice play.
take away all guns and then sign them out to go hunting, whatever, or target shooting, whatever. You know what? I might even be in favor of that. The problem with that is that it's so ridiculous. We can't get illegal drugs off the street, and we've been trying to do that for 50 years.
Let's be real. You're not allowed to own a gun in Chicago, I believe.
The highest,
But
violent
that's
crime
still,
rate.
like,
Yeah. I mean, even
somehow people are still dying from
this
gunshots.
spring, the crime
Insane.
rate, the murder rate, and they got the tightest gun laws. So you're saying it comes down to this, and we're talking about churches, and we would say they're just liberal-minded or liberal thinking. Like, I don't want to think about it. I just want to believe this and put my head in the sand. It's not critical thinking. It's just, I wish the world was a better place. Therefore, I'm going to live in a
Fantasyland.
fantasy land.
Human beings are broken, sinful people, and until that gets fixed, you can't solve these problems. So
What about Christian churches that would hold signs, ban war, stop war, war is evil, all that stuff? Same sort of thing as, well, yeah, nobody likes war. We're not like wanting to get into a war or whatever, but hello, there is evil in the world that wants to kill you, your spouse, and your children. What are you going to do? Wish it away? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Yep. That's it.
If you are not a critical thinker, if you
Stick
are
around.
moved by your emotions and not logic or truth, we hope and pray as a church that you would start thinking about things, analyzing things, facing reality, and seeing, so where does God want me to be in all of this?
I would even appreciate, even if we come to different conclusions, but at least if you can back up your side with logic and facts, and I've thought through principles. I mean, just me personally, I respect that much more than, well, that's just because I feel that way. Like,
Just because. That is
Wait
not
a
an
minute.
answer.
No, come on.
'Cause I want it
on
to be.
either side, actually,
Yeah,
on
yeah.
any side of any
'Cause I
issue.
want it to be.
Whether you agree with me or disagree with me.
Yeah.
Let's have some more like, why? What do you have to stand on?
Right. Do some research.
Do some research or even just have your own convictions.
Yeah.
Come on.
I think even with Christian people, to be able to explain why you believe what you believe is very important. And it's even so many Christians, well, I just believe this. Really? Why? I don't know. Somebody told me, we should all know why we believe what we believe. And that doesn't mean you need to be a Bible scholar. It just means that you need to know that, because this is a principle of God in the Bible, and, there's a reason. Why do you believe what you believe?
Yep. There you go.
Okay.
Was that a satisfactory answer? It was an answer.
I wish, and I appreciate you letting me
We don't
ask the
ever
question.
ask the person to ask the question
That's
if it was
true.
a satisfactory
the
answer.
person's never usually here.
Right. So since I asked the question, I appreciate that. I wish we could, maybe this plan is it. I wish we could get on a different platform to talk about things that you as the lead pastor anyway aren't so afraid of offending people, and we could just talk about this because...
I have an idea for a channel.
Oh, yeah, let's not talk about it. Hey, thank you
think it'd be
for
real
joining us. I think there's so many social things and stuff that we would love to talk about, and maybe we'll have a chance to get into some of this stuff. But it seems like the more specific we get into it, the more you can tell where we lean and trying to convince that. But I feel pretty confident that I would be able to back up everything that I believe. I really believe. Everything I believe and hold true, I can back up with logic or principles that are from God. I do. And so, but anyway, thanks for watching this. And I hope you weren't offended. I hope you were challenged. Hope you were encouraged. Thank you. See you next week.